Welcome everybody to CES 2019. We're here again on the Stampede Global booth, LVCC South Hall 2. An old friend of ours here today, Greg Patrick.
Old friend, I
old
agree.
Friend, yeah. Well, old friend as in old, but friend as in friend. Greg Patrick is recently been hired by Ultrahaptics, one of the exciting young companies that we've been watching for about 6 months or so. Tell us about your new role, because not many people will know. It's only been a couple of weeks, really.
No, it's only been a few weeks, exactly. Well, I've been hired as Vice President of Digital Signage for Ultrahaptics, and my responsibilities are to drive our technology into digital signage.
Right.
Now that's, we're focusing initially on 3 market segments: digital out of home, maybe an advertising application, retail, and finally we're going to continue our efforts with cinema, so digital lobbies. Exciting.
Now you need to tell people about Ultrahaptics, because it is actually quite a new technology that I don't think I've seen anywhere else. It's sort of, well, I can't even try doing, you touch things without touching things.
Precisely.
And you get feedback. That's the haptic bit.
That's the haptic bit. So
explain it from ground zero.
Yeah, haptics is something that everybody's probably aware of, whether they know it or not. If you have a cell phone and you feel a little vibration from that cell phone, that's haptics.
Gotcha.
So Ultrahaptics is in the space where we are providing that type of feedback, tactile feedback, in midair.
Right. So you're not touching anything.
We're not touching any surface. There's no wearable. There's no device.
Right.
So
just
it's
with a normal hand, no gloves, nothing.
Yeah, it's a clean gestural-based interface.
Explain to the audience. So when I was on your, I've been on your stand 2 or 3 times this week already, because we've been pretty impressed with that stuff. It's a long trek to Tech West, but it's worthwhile doing it. So it was like a kiosk system when you had the Porsche.
Yes.
And I could change the wheels and the color, and I put my hand over, which looked like a pad.
Yes.
Just put my hand maybe 6 inches above it, and I could feel things, and I could move buttons and press things and turn things and whatever. That's really it.
That was it. That was our collaboration with Porsche and ZeroLight, a media services company who produced that content. And you're right. What the concept of that was, Adrian, was a product or brand exploration use case. It gave the consumer an opportunity to get familiar with Porsche, specifically the Cayenne model. And as you described very correctly, it was the ability to make selections of key features of the car. The exterior color, the interior color, the rims, whether it had a bike rack on the back or a roof rack on top. And it ended with a QRC that you could snap with your camera, and then the consumer walks away with that experience, which is the configured car, a beautiful video of the car with all the features that they chose, driving on the road with shots of the interior, etc., and then information on the specifications, dealership, etc.
And as we discussed at the time, I think with one of your co-founders, no touching anything, no germs, no mobile phone interaction. It's all because of the mid-air stuff.
It's mid-air. So what we're able to do, so Ultrahaptics is the ability to generate that tactile sensation, more specifically to project it onto the user's hands. And what we use is sound waves, or ultrasound. And what you referred to in your comments was that small little device at the bottom. That's our transducer array. Now that is a finished good, FCC and CE approvals. So that's ready to go off the shelf.
Because it almost, when you put your hand there, it almost feels that somebody's blowing air at you.
Well, that's what we're doing, really. I mean, you said sound waves. We cast those sound waves into the air,
and it
moves air, and then where they intersect, because we cast a lot of those sound waves out, where they intersect, we're pinpointing areas on the hand. And we can do that in quite specific areas and across the entire palm. So
supremely clever. Now, it's supremely clever, and you've actually had a lot of interest from investors, private equity people. I think there was a recent fundraising.
You're right. We just closed our Series C at the end of last year. That investment is aimed at continuing to expand the IP portfolio, to grow critical resources on the technical side, and it's also supporting our move into digital signage, which is a key growth area for the company. And how many people work?
I know you've got an office in Bristol, because we've been in contact with them locally from where we are, but there's Palo Alto. How many people are around?
We're just shy of 100 people, if I've got that right. The majority in Bristol, and we've got about 10 10 to 15 people in the U.S., the Palo Alto, California office, which is where I spend a lot of my time.
Now, going to your booth, one of the things that you really notice is how you've worked with partners. You mentioned Zero Light, and you mentioned there were some other people I saw. There were some very famous game designers and things. And you work with car manufacturers. So this is like an API or an SDK or something that you have. How does that work?
We have an SDK so that we can do development with other platforms, be it hardware or software. We're really an IP company that licenses the technology. But we know that what we have to do, and I'm speaking probably at this point more specifically about digital signage, we know that we need to seed the market. So what we're doing is we are providing development kits to interested parties that would allow them to take the technology, the software, and training from us, and begin to experiment and play with the technology themselves. They do have a sensation library, so we've created a whole catalog of sensations already. They have access to some of that in that dev kit, but then they also have the training, and based on expertise, they have the ability to develop new sensations and new tactile responses.
Now, you're responsible globally for this as well.
I am.
So if anybody's interested, they should contact Greg. We'll put some details up when we stream the video up, but they should contact you.
Yes, absolutely. Specifically in the digital signage area. The other areas that we have been working in, the company has been very involved in automotive. And you saw when you were in the booth, the gestural control for the cockpit of the car. It's in the center stack or center console.
And there's VR and gaming.
Yes, there's VR and there's gaming. And then there is a B2C opportunity in partnership with Domenico, which is 3D imaging or 3D visuals, married up with haptic control capabilities, a whole interactive. But that could easily be a B2B in an industrial design environment as well, where a designer can sit down in front of that screen and pull up their files and begin to work on a product that they've been developing in full 3D and with tactile, surface-free response, maybe a more intimate way to work with their design.
Well, if anybody hasn't seen it, they need to try and see it in person somehow. There's some videos available. Greg?
Yes, thank you. One other thing, if anybody is still here and wants to see the show, we've got a fantastic use case down at the Aero booth in Eureka Park, where it's a whole brand activation. So that's another one that's worth looking at.
Greg, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.